I am death, and I have been tiringly busy. It only took a year for it to happen. It didn't come in a deafening boom, but through a slow and deliberate process. A process that most people didn't expect. One that people saw as something minor, and as it grew, they began to deny it. Officials worked tirelessly every day to save people, to prevent others from falling to the same fate. Eventually, even some of the most adamant individuals who looked out for the safety of themselves and others gave up. Some by losing the empathy that plagued them, some by disregarding future rules, and others by, simply letting go. Some called it a hoax. Others lied to themselves and said that the world will one day return to normal. Some called it the wrath of God. I called it the apocalypse. And as death, when the last soul passes, my job is done, and I too will pass. If there is one thing that humanity has taught me, it's that they can start back from zero. Not all hope is lost. As I traveled from continent to continent, helping souls pass on, I kept notes on population and their location. The count escalated to reach hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands every day, as souls had to be ferried to the other side. Then, one day, it was over. The apocalypse had come to an end, and, to my surprise, I found that in a few disjointed cities existed some survivors. For so long, even I had to come to terms that I would fall to join everyone on the other side, something that, as death itself, was hard to understand and cope with. But now, these few communities could be brought back from the end. And as long as I can keep them alive, as long as my job can continue, I, death, will continue to live. What constitutes a life? Are there lives that are more valuable than others? Who gets to live and who gets to die? These are all questions that I never bothered with. It was always up to the human spirit to decide when to let themselves reach their eternal rest. Now, as I see these scattered lives, I am forced to make a decision. The elderly have wisdom. They hold experience that can be taught, but they are frail. The young have barely begun life. They hold a great amount of potential being born into this world, but can do very little reliably. The ones that are in between are a strange mix of both. They can work towards a goal, they can learn, reliably reach their goals, but they are filled with self-doubt. The best that I could do is bring as many of them together as I could, slowly, in order to ensure they could work together. Humans are rather fickle. Even the ones with the best of intentions can hurt each other. As I followed the lifelines leading me to my first survivors, I found a mother and her child. I can't see what humans look like. I only see their soul. I see their lifeline. I see how old they are. I see their overall health, conditions, injuries, and even their mental health. In addition, I can't read minds. I can't tell if a human is good or bad, and when they hurt each other, even I am caught off guard. Man was once so simple. Rocks and sticks were all that they had, and all that I witnessed death by. And by the end, they had nuclear energy available to them. I had not known that they would reach this point. As humankind continued to discover the world, I too was there to discover with them. But none of this matters. It is no different than the movies that they watch or the games they play. My job is to take them to the other side after all. What reason do I have to care? What reason do I have to learn about their mannerisms and their emotions? No. No. My job has always been to keep the cycle as death. When the time comes, the human's lifeline begins to wear down. The humans see nothing, but I see a rope made of white threads. Each day the threads break down as they reach closer to the time to pass. They continue to their final day, untwining like a rope ready to snap. When this happens, I make myself present. Some people can feel my presence. They can tell when the time has come. Some accept it, and others let their emotions erupt. Some are lucky, for even on their deathbed, they feel the need to defy me, to bolster themselves and live another day. But they do not understand. I do not make that decision. I simply watch the final string of this rope snap and ferry them to the other side. I cannot directly influence their lives. I cannot cut or repair their lifeline. I cannot even touch any living being. I made my first decision on who to reach out to. A pair of lifelines that have not left each other since the second one had been born. A mother and a child. I know these lifelines, having visited them during the apocalypse. They were a family of 3, but the father had fallen rather sick, and without proper treatment or allowing himself to rest, I came to take him away. They were with him in his passing. The effect of being surrounded by other humans brings peace and makes my job easier. But because of this, the mother and child knew my presence. They knew what death felt like. I followed the human custom and entered through the side door, physical barriers not limiting me. I found her with her child, eating together what little food she had. But when I arrived, the room changed. Panic creeped inside. Her internal temperature dropped. Adrenaline rose, anxiety skyrocketed, and tears welled up in her eyes. In a flash, she had snagged her only child, holding tight, fearful that I had returned for her child. Her panic instilled him with a similar effect, and he began to wail. She ran from her living room to the back door, but I was there. She returned to the front door, but I was there. She ran window to window, room to room, from both conventional exit to unconventional, but each and every time I was there. Unfortunately, humans simply do not understand what I am, and that one cannot hide nor run from me. Eventually, she collapsed, realizing this truth, and accepted death from inside her child's room. But death did not befall her. Instead, I simply looked around the boy's room. Colorful toys, picture books in various sizes, a crib with a mobile of space. The humans always did have a fascination with space, but if aliens exist, I do not know. As she sobbed, I found the switch for the mobile and turned it on. Slow music began to play, twinkling, enrapturing, calming. A ritual to calm human children before bed would be the same ritual that calmed the child now. The tranquility of her child brought about her own sense of peace. But it was still clouded by fear and confusion. Human bodies are so sensitive, needing sustenance after physical labor, and so I returned to where I first found them. Picking things up is rather difficult, but influencing their movements is possible for me. So, when the plate of food was slid back into her reach, she relaxed, nourishing her stressed body with food. Once she had finished, I left, reaching the door once more. The sound of the door unlocking, followed by its slow creak, attracted her attention. She stood, dragging herself towards it tentatively, towards a door that now shed light from the outside world. The world that exists post-apocalypse. The world that had taken the lives of nearly all of humankind, including her husband. The world that now is a vast, open, endless sea of not only immense risk of failure, of dying, of falling prey to what some consider a cruel world, but that same world also poses as an immense potential for success. A world renewed, of rebirth, of new beginnings, a chance to strengthen threads, a potential for life.